The Brunstad feasts started in 1998. In South Africa, we initially watched the feasts on video, as we could not yet follow the satellite transmissions. We enjoyed watching the feasts, but for most of us, Brunstad was a faraway place, and it was more seen as a conference center for the friends in Europe. During this time, South Africa was also going through a difficult period, both politically and economically. Many South Africans were not very positive about our future. It was at this time that Tielman Slabbert received an email from Brunstad asking the church in South Africa to be part of the David's Column project and for individuals to contribute the same amount as the Friends in Europe. Tielman calculated the amount for each David's Column and he realized that it was not at all possible for the Friends in South Africa to achieve. This was due to the low value of our currency and the difference in living standards between us and Europe.
Dear God, how on earth are we going to do this? Most of the friends will never be able to contribute this amount. The majority of them can't even afford to go to Brunstad, and this will drain all the funds we need for our local conferences.
Tielman decided to write to Cora Smith. He wanted to explain the circumstances of the Friends here in South Africa. Unlike Norway, schooling here is not free. Medical, dental and study expenses all have to be paid for by the Friends themselves. This was not a bright picture, so Tielman felt he had to stand up for the Friends in South Africa. In his response, Cora said he was really sorry and that he made a big mistake to place the church in South Africa on an equal footing with Europe. Cora said it was never his intention to burden us in any way, but rather wanted us to share in all the blessings.
Blessings? He wants us to share in the blessings?
We calculated an equivalent amount to what the Friends in Norway were asked to contribute. We then began making our own David's columns, which quickly began to fill up. And in 2001, with the Brunstad feast in Bergen, we were along for the first time. This was a major breakthrough. No one in South Africa could have foreseen the wonderful blessings we were to receive. A short time after we received faith and gave ourselves for the David's Column project, we began to experience blessings in many ways. For example, it became possible to build new accommodation at Stefano Park Conference Centre. Friends were now able to buy their own affordable cabins to use during conferences. With Cora set to visit the Friends in South Africa, Tielman now found himself in an interesting situation.
So now I really had a problem. How was I going to explain this to Cora Smith after I told him about our poor financial situation? But I thought Cora will understand.
Gud krever ikke at vi skal være med det vi ikke kan. Men når vi med vi kan, da velsigner Gud det lille, akkurat som han gjorde med de fiskene som Jesus velsignet. Og det blir så rikelig. Og det var den velsignelsen. Også jordisk gjør han det. Og jeg ønsket at dere måtte få kjenne det og oppleve det. For sånn det når vi tror på ham.
Sometime later, Tielman received another email from Brunstad. This is how the David Suitcase project started. The project was a humbling process for us. Unemployment was high and it was extremely difficult to find extra work to raise money. To keep up the spirit, we held a competition between the different local churches to raise the money. Most of the money we raised came from the Friends' own pockets, and so the David suitcases started swelling. Thinking this was our last major contribution, apart from the David's columns, we put in everything we could. We managed to give more than double the amount that we already were giving through the David's columns. A few months later, Tielman received yet another email from Brunstad. This time South Africa was asked to carry our portion of the Brunstad debt. This was after we were quite exhausted due to the David Suitcase project. The responsible brothers got together for a meeting once again. Then they got revelation from God. God will never give us a task without also giving us the wisdom, the means and the energy to fulfill it. Faith was born in their hearts and they decided to go for it. It was then that the idea was born. The church owned a piece of land next to Stefana Park Conference Centre. The property already had residential development rights. Usually such an application may take years to obtain. Some of the friends were already thinking of moving closer to the conference centre. Why then not subdivide the property into smaller pieces of land and sell it to the friends? In this way, we could earn money to pay off our Brunstad debt. From the beginning, this plan was a miracle. To get the plans approved by the municipality is usually a lengthy process. But by God's grace, we got everything approved in only 2 months. Our national youth tour was planned for 5 days in April, but we decided to make it a working youth tour. Young and old came together to work on the project. Young people working together with older brothers, digging trenches, laying cables, installing sewage systems, electrical boxes and water meters. The building site was a joyous buzz of activity. But would the building inspector approve this?
And so the city engineer, he came to inspect and he couldn't believe his eyes. All over the site were willing, hard-working girls and boys working together with older brothers and sisters. And then he said, "I've never seen this in my life." And then he gave us his full approval to go ahead. So all the pieces of land were then sold to the friends at affordable prices, and our Brunstad debt could be paid off at once. None of us could ever envision that this would develop into such an amazing place. Yes, I can tell you, if we have not been asked to be along in contributing to Brunstad, we would have never experienced it.
Brunstad is now no longer a place just for the friends in Europe, but for us as well. Many of the friends from South Africa are now able to attend conferences at Brunstad. Many of our youth have also had the opportunity to be part of the A-team. We have been woven together with friends from all over the world into one body.
Brunstad har Gud sine interesser, og her åpenbarer han seg kraftig for menneskene over hele jorda, og arbeidet her, det er jo en fellesskapstanke at vi er med så godt vi kan fra hele jorda. For dette er vårt sted, Kristi legemes sted. Ikke norsk, ikke nordmenns sted. Absolutt ikke. Og heller ikke bare Europa.